So are you tired of feeling financially overwhelmed and unsure how to get your finances in order? Do you want to take back control of your money and feel more confident about your choices? In this video, I'm going to outline the strategies that I've seen work time and time again. So watch to the end to get the very best advice on financial planning that I can give you. The first thing you need to do is you got to set some financial goals. Now I know this seems cliche and boring, but you got to determine what you want to achieve with your money. I mean, you can't go about just making money and setting goals without understanding the specifics about those goals, because the goals must be specific and measurable, because that's how your financial goals are going to actually come to be. But if you just say, I want to retire someday, well, what does that mean? So these financial goals, let's break them down just so I can give you an example. If you say my goal is to retire at the age of 60 years old, my next thing I'm going to ask is, well, what does that look like? And then what I'm asking you is, how much income will it take for you to actually retire and be free? So that you don't have to work, so you don't have to rely on that paycheck anymore. That's measurable. And if you say to me, I need $5,000 a month after taxes, well, then we got to solve for that. And then we got to index that for inflation. That's a measurable financial goal. And that helps you and me, if I was giving you the advice, guide you to that decision. But if you don't come up with those specific measurable goals, then you're never going to get there. Saying I want to retire someday is not a goal. It's a wish, it's a vision, it's whatever you want to call it. But you don't know how to reverse engineer that because you don't know what the specifics are. I want to buy a car. Great. What kind of car do you want to buy? Oh, I want a BMW 5 Series M. Whatever package you want to get. Great. How much are those? Wonderful. How much could you finance that for? Wonderful. Well, let's solve to pay for the monthly payment, or let's solve to save enough money to buy that car. You see what I'm saying? Everything I'm talking about is coming down with a measurable financial goal. That leads me to the second part of this. Once we figure out that measurable goal, we're going to create a budget. We got to come up with a budget that's going to help you track your income or your incomes, hopefully. How many of you only have one income? Because if you only have one income, we got to work on that. Because if that one income goes to zero because you lose your job, you get laid off, or something happens, you're done. So we always want to have more than one income. I like to say 3 minimum. And one can be a side hustle, one can be your W-2, and one can just be a business that you started or something that you're partnered in. Maybe a real estate property. Okay? So we're going to track your income, but we're also going to track your expenses, your household expenses. So one side, left side, would be your income. Right side would be your household expenses at the top. And then at the bottom, what we're going to do is we're going to put down all your debts. And we're going to measure your debts by the debtor, the balance, the interest rate you're paying, and the monthly payment you're giving them. Now, once we've got all that on the right column, we now can add it all up and we can figure out how much a month is going out in expenses. Now, once we figure out income and expenses, we can figure out whether you've got a problem or whether you've got a good situation. A problem would be my expenses and my debt payments are more than my income. Well, time to get a second job. Sorry about your luck, but that's just about the only place you're going to be able to go. But if you do have more income than expenses, what we got to do is through the budget, figure out where you're leaking this money. Maybe you're not leaking any, but most people come up with a positive balance that they have extra every month, but they can't identify where that money's going. So we first need to identify income, expenses, figure out the amount you have to save every single month, and then figure out why it doesn't seem like you have any extra money when on the budget it says you do. So obviously you're not accounting for something, you missed a number somewhere, or you just don't have the proper things in place to make sure that that savings doesn't just poof, vanish. Number 3. We have to save and we have to invest for the future. So it's important to save and invest for the long term because that's going to help you ensure that you have a financial resource at some point in time that's going to be used to solve those problems that you have, to achieve those goals that you want. So in doing this, when we're saving that extra money we determined, okay, it's important that we're going to have a long-term vision because depending on what your goals are, not all goals are long-term, but we're really just kind of looking long-term right now. To understand that the balance of your accounts could ebb and flow. They could go up and down with the markets. Now, we can mitigate some of that risk out by proper management of that. I personally don't believe in the buy and hold strategy through market cycles. I believe in being prudent with management of those assets. So when the markets are going down like they are right now in 2023, I like to get off the train and wait for the train to go down lower and then start dollar cost averaging in, because I love buying low. And I love when my clients buy low. I don't like buying high and selling low. That's not something I like, and that's not something you should ever like. So we want to keep a long-term picture, but we also want to manage that long-term picture and the assets that go along with that. Because the resources at the end are going to be highly determined by what you do and when you do it. It's not just what you do, it's when you do it. Let me give you an example of that. A lot of people save their entire life. And they get to that magic day when they're going to retire, when it looks based on their account that they're going to have enough money to provide an income for the rest of their life. Then all of a sudden, the market drops. Now all of a sudden, their balance goes down. If they continue to retire, they more than likely will run out of money, or they will have to reduce the amount that they take. Because when your balance goes down, you're going to not have as much money working for you. Therefore, your income either has to go down, or you're going to have to start taking from your principal, which more than likely means you're going to run out of money. So these are all things that you need to think about. And the way to avoid that is when you get close to retirement, just have all your money in a preservation mode. Okay, whatever portfolio you have 5 years from retirement, make sure that portfolio is extremely conservative and really geared around preserving your principal and protecting the assets that you have. So the fourth thing, and I think this is one that not a lot of people talk about, but it's one of the biggest eroders of wealth, and it's one of the biggest things that will keep you from hitting your goals, and it's debt. Your high levels of debt can be a financial burden, and that's going to impact your ability to save and your ability to invest for the future. Until you pay off debts, until you focus the majority of the money. Now, let me pause for a second. Here's what a lot of people do. A lot of people will take more risk to try to make more money to pay off debts with that extra money they make. And when that doesn't work out, guess what they have? More debt. What I prefer people to do is take the easy, conservative path. Scale back your investments. Take the money that you would have invested and let's dump that onto the debts. Let's go debts from lowest balance to highest balance. They call this the snowball effect. Low balance to highest balance. As we pay one debt off, what we're going to do is take the money that you were giving to that debtor and we're going to put that money into an account. And we're going to keep recycling and recapturing the money that you were giving away every time we pay off a debt. Because once we start paying off these credit cards, that's going to give us extra money to then apply to the next highest credit card. Okay, and we just keep doing that. So you take the extra money that you used to invest that you're no longer going to invest because you're going to focus on paying off debt. So that's the first component. And then as we pay off debt, we take the money you were paying to those debtors, and now that's on top of it because it's money you're no longer giving away. You get to keep that and apply that to the next debt. This is all part of that snowball process. We call it the money multiplier method, but you can call it whatever you want. It works. And it will get rid of all your debts. Now, some of you are still kind of struggling. You're like, oh, why would I do that? I could invest that money in the S&P. I could invest that money in real estate. I could invest that money in something, and I could earn a higher return. Hold on. Your credit card debts. How much interest is the credit card charging you on those debts? 20? 25%? Wouldn't 20 or 25% be a really good return for the S&P 500? Actually, even a return that the S&P 500 or any index is going to have a hard time getting. Oh, yeah. But yeah, you could get that kind of a return just by paying off the debt and recycling the money you were giving away. Because in effect, you're recycling and recapturing the amount of interest that you were giving away. It's really the same thing at the end of the day. But there's no risk with that. So consider paying off high interest debt as a priority. Now, the fifth thing, and I already mentioned this, but now I want to get really specific about it, is protecting your assets. It's kind of like protect your ass, right? You want to protect your assets, such as your home. Your income is another thing you want to protect, which is why earlier I said don't just have one income. You need multiple income streams. It's important for your financial security that you do have that because one could go away tomorrow, and then you've got a couple more that you can focus on. The same thing with your assets. You want to make sure you protect your assets. And that can be done in lots of different ways. You can manage your risk on the investments. Okay, you can put your house inside of a trust if you really want ultimate protection. You could then use entities to protect different assets that you have. This goes far and wide, but really I'm just trying to help you understand is the number one thing you need to do is protect the assets and the money that you have against unexpected events. And insurance is another thing that really helps with that. I mean, health insurance, insurance on your house, homeowners, okay? You got to have car insurance. And then you also probably should have some life insurance to protect the number one asset that you have, you. Another thing you really should do, and this would be number 6, is seek professional advice. You're getting started by watching this video. I wouldn't say that this is professional advice, but this is definitely a good step in the right direction. It's a guideline. Okay, this is best practices. But if you're feeling overwhelmed or you're unsure about how to do all this, how to manage your money, well, seek guidance from a financial planner or advisor. And I'm always skeptical about saying this. I was an advisor for 16 years. And I would say I probably didn't do a very good job for my clients for some of that time. And I say that not because I was a bad advisor, but because what they teach advisors is not what I call good financial advice. If you're going to find an advisor, find one that is a fiduciary, one that has to put you above them, has to put your needs and goals far above their paycheck. When you find a fiduciary and they come in the form of RIAs, registered investment advisors or investment advisors, there's different licenses that makes them a fiduciary. They can help create a personalized financial plan for you that meets your unique needs and goals. We can also help you with that because we also have an RIA that we could send you to. But again, I'm just trying to keep this nice and high level, so whoever your trusted advisor is, ask them, are you a fiduciary, and can you help me structure these things that I just learned in this video? Let's do a quick recap, shall we? The first thing I said is you got to set your financial goals, and they got to be measurable financial goals. Remember, don't just say you want to retire. Say, I want to retire with a $5,000 net monthly income. Well, then the second thing we moved to after that was creating a budget. We need a budget so you can track your income and expenses, and we can identify the areas that we have to be able to cut or where we can save more. The third thing we mentioned is save and invest for the future. It's important that you keep a long-term mindset when it comes to your investing, because as I always say, building wealth is a marathon. It's not a sprint. You can't get rich quick and keep the money. The fourth thing that's always going to stop you from meeting your financial goals is debts, especially high interest debts, bad debts. So we got to pay those debts off. And we got to pay them off using a system. A system, some call it the snowball, we call it the money multiplier method, but definitely take money that you save and reallocate it to paying off your debts, and that can give you a risk-free return, as I mentioned. Number 5, protect your ass. I mean, protect your assets is what I meant to say. But protecting your assets like your home, your income, and your financial assets is very important because, hey, it just takes one mistake to wipe it all out. And that one mistake will put you years behind your financial goals. And if all this seems overwhelming, well, seek financial advice. Seek professional advice from somebody that is a fiduciary, somebody that puts you before them. All these things are important. And if you want to meet your financial goals, each one of these steps is going to be a step you're going to have to go through. And I know you're busy. You don't have time, but this is something that should be really important and something that you have to make time for. And while we're on that whole topic of time, I'm going to ask you to watch another video because this video certainly will help you right here. Is it bad to have lots of credit cards with zero balance? Because as we talked about that debt thing, I bet you were thinking about that. So I made a video all about that. Check it out. And thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.